Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling, trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz, break it down with the proper perspective. Break it down with the proper perspective.
Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2. Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2. Mic check. Mic check. 1, 2. Mic check. Okay. Now we cracking, everybody. Excuse me. So how y'all doing out there tonight? This is Shabazz with the proper perspective, trying to get everything situated. Still waiting on a couple of technical difficulties to clear up. The mic is now right. The camera is now right. I have no idea um, if the notifications are going out. Seems like there's always some kind of technical glitch going on. But how y'all doing? I'm not on the alternative websites tonight, but it is what it is. We here tonight on YouTube, and that's what we're gonna be focusing on. What we talking about tonight? We're talking about a whole bunch of different things tonight. Let me get this screen maximized. Here we go. We talking about Zelenskyy, Trump, Musk, Tesla, the Billionaire Bad Boys Club, and what in the world it has to do with anything we got going on in the black community. So, like I said, welcome to the Proper Perspective Podcast. My name is Shabazz. How y'all doing out there tonight? Now, if you're familiar with the show, you know that I like to sprinkle in a little bit of West African wisdom. But you also might know that I sort of covered this topic a few days ago. You know, it was a whole bunch of rigmarole jumping off between that White House fiasco, the shouting match that struck a nerve with everybody. And I discussed this a little bit on one of my previous shows, and I said, calm down. Like Drake said, pipe down, pip squeak. I said, look, this is none of our concern. But I saw a lot of black journalists, I saw a lot of black YouTubers, particularly the left-leaning ones, but I saw some conservative ones also discussing and talking about how bad this makes America look. And I was like, I told y'all, I said, look, don't get your britches in a bunch. And so I said, watch, you wait and see. What they saying now, the new phrase FAFO. Yeah, wait, what I tell you. I said, they gonna fix this, they gonna clear it up before you know it, and everything gonna be rocking and rolling, because that's what the palm-colored people do. They create spectacles, they create problems, and then they fix them to make it look as though they know what they're doing. But these are generated, manufactured, fabricated problems. And I said, don't lose your damn mind over this whole Trump, Zelenskyy, White House back and forth with Shady Vance and whoever that other reporter was, trying to make mockery of his uniform and his outfit, his attire, all that shouting, all that grandstanding. Y'all really thought it meant something. And I was like, no. This is too much. What did Shakespeare play? Methinks the lady doth protest too much. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, business was getting handled just like I said it would. They weren't going to let that deal go away. The art of the deal, the art of the con, is to make things look one way while you're working on them going in a different direction. And so look where we at now. Ukraine just agreed to a U.S. proposed ceasefire. And now all of a sudden the conversation is flipped. They don't want to talk about the shouting match. They want to talk about good work, guys. We're moving forward. So I gotta ask, was the spectacle really worth all of that? Was all that huffing and puffing good for anything? Especially from black journalists. Like, I thought, as black people, I thought we hold our own for our interests, not the country's. Don't we realize that just because it's good for the country doesn't mean it's good for us? Why were we getting so sucked into this whole shouting match fiasco? For real, it was more like a WWE match than anything else. It's the predictable cycle. See, this is the problem. Too many so-called journalists, and I do mean so-called, and then particularly when they're the black journalists, they let themselves get caught up in performance politics instead of the reality of the politics. And they were out there treating that whole White House argument like it was the defining moment of U.S.-Ukraine relations. As if Trump and Zelenskyy wasn't gonna shake hands behind closed doors and get her done That shouting match was nowhere near something that was going to rewrite history. Trump wanted them rare earth minerals, and Zelenskyy probably couldn't be seen on the public stage, especially by Putin, as giving in. So they made a theater. They made a theater presentation. I said, give it a week, maybe two. But clearly, way before a month was over, they'll be sitting at a table signing a deal while y'all still debating the tone of the vice president's voice, the tone of Trump's voice. And here we are, ceasefire, 30 days. Ukraine is back in the U.S.'s back pocket with intelligence sharing and security assistance, and God knows how much money going to be moving across. I know how much money won't be. I know that reparations check ain't coming because it's being sent to the Ukraine just like I thought it would. But they didn't want to draw that parallel. They didn't want to draw that conclusion when they was all hot and bothered over the Trump shouting match. I mean, like, y'all ain't noticed the pattern. They put on a show for the cameras. They get everybody all riled up. That's why I thought black reporters, black journalists would be more mindful of this. We've seen this since the beginning of our time over here. But definitely we've seen it in this most recent era of Trump politics. So how are we getting duped? The ones who act like they're personally offended, like Trump and Zelenskyy spit on you. Y'all do realize this is a game, right? Y'all do realize it's a dog and pony show. There's a reason our voices aren't taken seriously in these political spaces. We too busy focusing on the drama instead of the deal. Now, how is it that I can see this in my little small corner of the universe? But big dogs like Roland Martin ain't talking about this. He just huffing and puffing about the shouting. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not castigating Roland Martin. I know a lot of people in these YouTube spaces, they like to do that, especially the conservatives. That's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm saying. The real story was never about the shouting match. The story was always about what happens next. The story was always about what's going to happen to those rare earth minerals. It ain't even about Putin. It ain't even about Russia. And it ain't about Ukraine holding its own or losing. It's about those rare earth minerals. And Trump said, we want them. We gonna get them. And Teflon Don always get what he want. At least so far. And now we see the next move. Zelensky's did all of that, even went on to other interviews, trying to act like he stood his ground. But he's still playing ball. And the U.S. is back to supporting him. And they say the ball is now in Russia's court. Well, best believe that is the only part of this discussion. That is the only part of this fiasco. That's the only part of this war deal transaction that matters. Not who yells the loudest, but who signs on the dotted line. So what does this mean moving forward? What does this mean moving forward? Well, let's break it down. Let's see what it actually means. Well, Ukraine has not gone rogue. After all that noise, they still moving with the U.S. They still in bed with Trump. And don't excuse the pun. I mean the pun for exactly what it says. And eventually, so sooner or later in the next couple of days, probably, I'll give it a week, maybe two, Russia's going to respond. And if they reject the ceasefire, there's going to be another tit for tat, a tete-a-tete. No, that ain't the right word, a tete-a-tete. Let me look that up. Let's see, what's that right word? a head-to-head, a tete-a-tete. I did say it right. Ha ha ha. Got my vocabulary in there, don't I? It's gonna be a tete-a-tete between Russia and the US. And since Trump has selected all of his cronies to be his stand-ins, he can protect his own image and his own relationship with Putin by sending all of his F-boys, fanboys, his F-boys, fanboys, to do the hard talk against Putin. So this whole shouting match thing, it was just, like I said, it was theater. Well orchestrated, Oscar worthy performance. And it ain't the last one. It certainly wasn't the first, but it ain't the last one. I might say this was just act one, but it's really act 3 or act 4. But let's just stick with, okay, this is act 1 in the scenario. Because if the ceasefire don't hold, we'll see another media frenzy designed to get everybody's emotions all up in a roar. So I encourage you to take a step back and think critically. When they start shouting, in whichever way they shout and scream, watch for the hook. Take a step back and wonder to yourself, what's really going on? This is a distraction. Weapons of mass distraction. So the real question is, when they point to the left, you better look to the right and see what it is, what's going on. If they point to the right, you better look to the left. Like, share, and subscribe. YouTube.com/@theproperperspective. But I appreciate you for tuning in. If you're in the chat, shout out. Shout out to Decoding History Podcast for being in the chat. I appreciate you tuning in. I got your name on the screen. So again, the next time this happens, because it'll be happening, it's already happened already. But the next time it happens between Zelenskyy, ask yourself, what's the actual end game? What's really going on? What's really real? Don't get so bogged down into the theatrics. The drama is just that. It's drama, but there's a reason behind the drama. So the question is, why are they trying to distract you? That's the real deal. And if you, like I said, I'm not taking a shot at any of the Black journalists and reporters and YouTubers, but if they're not telling you some possible scenarios as to why the drama is just drama, as to why you should dig deeper, then maybe you should reconsider why you're listening to them. It's not supposed to be their job to simply tell you, oh my God, they were yelling at each other. You can see that just by tuning in yourself. The question is, why would they upstage? And why would they create such a theatrical display? And I don't recall anybody talking about that. So like I said, next time you see another political circus pop off, remember this moment. Remember the Ukraine Zelenskyy shouting match. Why aren't you wearing a suit? Remember how quick the script flipped? Within a week, they signed in paperwork. And most importantly, remember who told you first. The Proper Perspective. Shabazz with the Proper Perspective. Now, like I said, if you're familiar with my show, you know I try to drop a little West African wisdom on you whenever I can find it and make it work into the conversation. And lo and behold, I found a Nigerian proverb that goes a little something like this. When the hyena and the goat smile at each other, one of them is planning something. When the hyena and the goat smile at each other, one of them is planning something. Now, what does that mean? Well, I'll do it this way. Now, when I was teaching in class, I wouldn't just I wouldn't just throw it out there. I would sort of like prod my students and make them come up with some answers. But I ain't in the classroom no more. So here's what it means. Now, if you're in the chat room, you can surely type up something if you think if you hear it or you think you know what it means or you feel like you know what it means, and I'll put that on the screen. But when the hyena and the goat smile at each other, one of them is planning something. That means even when rivals publicly agree, at least one of them is securing a hidden agenda or hidden gains. At least one of them has a hidden agenda to get something ain't nobody suspecting. So we need to trust actions over smiles, trust actions over words. Because even with this new signed deal for a ceasefire, that's not peace. It's a tactical pause. So while these hyenas and goats are smiling at each other and smiling in our faces, what's the hidden agenda? What's the real hidden deal? So again, that's a little bit of a conversation, I guess I would say. Few gems for you to think about. But I also wanted to talk about, well, this is sort of like a continuation in the saga of orangutan, the Trump saga. Because I know, well, I don't know, but do y'all know? If you follow the stock market, then you might know. Now, I thought it was really rather interesting because according to the stock market, up until like, I think today, it's either today or yesterday, ever since this Doge rampage has been jumping off and people have been responding, there has been a lot of uh, back and forth. There's been a lot of protest. There's been a lot of reconsideration, a lot of FAFO from a lot of uh, palm colored people. The envelopians are really upset. Like most black people are just sitting back, like, yeah, we know, we saw it coming. We were told. Some of us even read the Project 2025, so we were quite aware. Some of us watched other programs, other YouTubers, and we were, if we didn't read that 1,000-page manual, then we at least caught the bullet points on a few very good podcasts. So we knew what was going on, what was coming down the pike. But a lot of these envelopians did not. They literally had no clue. They honestly thought the only people that's going to get hurt were those blessed with melanin. So they didn't care. And then when they realized they in the same boat as a lot of those blessed with melanin, whole lot of them veterans that voted for Trump, they out of a job just like the black folk are. Whole lot of them women voted for Trump. They out of a job just like black women are. But they ain't think it was going to happen to them. FAFO. So in this continuing saga of orangutan antics, orangutan has decided that because everybody is hot and bothered, because there's been a good number of protests, there have been people driving their Teslas into rivers. There's been people vandalizing Teslas. One particular entertainer did a performative nonetheless, but she did a protest where she video recorded herself returning her Tesla, and she donated the money that was supposed to go to the purchase or the lease to a charity, I believe. And yeah, you can say, oh, that's just performative. That's just one celebrity. But if you go look it up, it's been a whole lot of stuff going on against Tesla. There's been a cyber attack, or I should say against Musk, against Musky Boy. There was a cyber attack on X that shut it down. People have been vandalizing the Tesla trucks. I think maybe one of them blew up. People have been recording the problems that they have with the Teslas. So even if they're keeping the Tesla, they're like, yo, bro, don't buy this. I know I bought one. I know I say I love it, but it's horrible. I have so many problems. As a truck itself is supposed to be so super industrious and rugged, and you can find videos of it not being able to get through light snow and heavy snows, or people have said they got to stop every 10 minutes to wipe the snow off because the car can't shake the snow and it can't move. So Tesla, X, Doge, not Doge itself, but his company, Musky Boy's company, has been hitting some tanks. His stock price has been plummeting. His stock price is dropping. So Orangutan decide he gonna help sway the market. I would really love to know if the SEC is going to investigate this situation, because Orangutan decided he was gonna sway the market. So imagine waking up to see your favorite stock company, one that was struggling, dropping 20 points, dropping 40 points. And then you wake up one day and it's shooting up, reaching for the sky again. And then you go do some research and do some digging to find out, wait a minute, how could this possibly have happened? What's going on? A political stunt outside the White House. The leader of the free nation is on his own social media and called in all of the networks, news networks, and channels, and everything he can think of, Truth Social, and so on and so forth, telling the whole country, telling the whole world what a spectacular product this is. In spite of the fact that the stock price is plummeting, telling everybody you should all go out and buy one. In spite of the fact that investors are like, we want out. It's a political stunt. Much like what? Much like that shouting match. It's a political stunt. And that's exactly what Orangutan is doing again. And guess what? It worked. Just like the shouting match worked, because it got people talking and allowed them to sign a deal while everybody was looking the other way. Now, all of a sudden, the plummeting has stopped and the rise has begun. So Orangutan out there on the South Lawn, stomping for, well, really trumping and stumping for Muskie. And then you're going to tell me this was a genuine show of support? Or you're going to tell me this was a well-executed pump and dump? How is it not? Okay, it sounds like, I'm not going to say I'm an expert on stocks, so I can't say it's definitively an example of insider trading, but it sure sounds like some dancing on the lines of influence. Didn't they throw Martha Stewart in jail for something like this? So NBC reports Trump personally invited Musk to showcase Tesla's cars outside the White House. Hours earlier, Trump had announced, I'm going to buy a Tesla. I think everyone should buy a Tesla to show support for this patriot. And right after that, there go the stock prices. So it looks suspicious. Stock surge timing. Tesla stock saw an immediate uptick. Coincidence? Or was this a well-timed market manipulation? That's the phrase I was looking for. Market manipulation. Not necessarily insider trading, but market manipulation. Trump's endorsements have historically swayed markets, and he knows this. They both know this. Musk has done it too. Now, if Musk knew that Trump was going to do this in advance, how could he not have known? If Musk knew that Trump was going to do this in advance, couldn't this be a plan? Couldn't this have been something that they both worked on? Conspiracy theory. Now, White House being used as a private PR tool. I mean, everything is for sale under the orangutan administration. He's selling citizenship for $5 million. I say he ought to let us sell our own citizenship. Give me $5 million. You can take my place. I'm out of here. But he's selling citizenship for $5 million. He's selling Tesla vehicles, maybe at regular price, but he's still selling them on the lawn of the White House. Because he knows that he curries favor. He knows, especially the MAGA millions, he knows they're going to do whatever he asks them to do. But presidents are not supposed to use federal property for personal business favors. Market manipulation, insider trading. Now, yeah, and on his behalf, if you're in favor of him, you would say something like, well, this strengthens his image as a pro-business leader. And why not reward Musk for all of the hard work he's doing over there at Doge? Now, if you really look into it, even if it's not directly the manipulation, I'll tell you one thing, it really is. Because let's not forget Orangutan's secondary mission. His first mission is to make money for him and his minions, his millionaire minions, not the regular people. But his secondary mission is to take any stab at Biden he possibly can. And so he wanted to use this. He's definitely using this as a strategic way to poke at Biden. Because even in his speech, he discussed the value of electric vehicles, which is something that Biden discussed. But Biden directly, definitively, and on purpose snubbed Musk as an individual, as a business person, as a billionaire, and he snubbed Tesla as the company. So this fits right into Orangutan's mission to get back at Biden. He never misses. He never misses. He never misses an opportunity to take a stab, is what I should say. Now, clearly, yeah, stock prices rising again. So that's a benefit for Musk, as if he needed the money. It restores faith in the Tesla stock. It reaffirms his connection to political power, because a lot of people have started saying, like there's some people like, how long can this bromance last? They're both hyper individualistic. They're both super selfish, narcissistic. It's got to implode sooner or later. And so some were speculating that, yeah, if Muskie loses too much, then this whole bromance could collapse. So, of course, the girlfriend, Orangutan had to do something to show that he still supports his partner. Even if this boosts investor confidence in Tesla, at least for the temporary, like we'll see, because they're gonna have to do a lot more selling cars at the White House if he wants to completely subvert what looks to be a growing campaign against Musk. If they continue firing all these federal workers, I read one thing was 1,200. Another article said it was 1,700. I think another one for the Veterans Affairs, they fired 1,300 people, and the Veterans Affairs Administration was already woefully understaffed. All of these veterans that voted for Trump, they also bought Teslas, and they trying to figure out how they can get rid of this Tesla. So even though he had a brief momentary rise, it may not last. It may not survive. That price could tank again. And his son talking about some buy the dip. Not all the time. You don't always buy the dip. So will the SEC investigate? That's the question I have. I don't know if anybody else is talking about it. I ain't hear anybody else talking about it. If Tesla insiders traded on this information before the event, somebody got to be looking into it. But then again, since the Republicans are removing Democrats from all of the committees that do the investigating, it may be smooth sailing. It may be a clear, easy walk in the park, because they're the ones that usually set up and trigger the investigations. So who knows if legal trouble is going to follow this? But this isn't the first time that any public figure, particularly these two, but public figures have always factored into the stock market. But Elon himself, the felon Elon, he's swayed public opinion about Dogecoin just on his platform X. So I wonder who's playing who. Is Trump playing Musk, or is Musk playing Trump? Or are they both playing each other? So let's talk legality. The SEC defines market manipulation as intentionally inflating stock prices. That's why I said, again, I'm not an expert, and I'm not saying that I'm an expert, but you're not going to tell me that this wasn't intentional. He literally said, your stock prices are plummeting. I want to help you. I'm going to tell the American people to go out and buy your car. That's intentional. So with this intentionality towards inflating the price through false or misleading actions, now what would be false and misleading about it? For one, I don't even believe he actually purchased the vehicle. So in that regard, it's false right then and there. Somebody has to go and investigate. Was there an actual purchase made? He said he was going to buy it. Well, how much did he pay for it? I don't believe he purchased it. He plainly said he ain't allowed to drive. He gonna let the staffers use it. Yeah, I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you, and I live in Virginia. It sounds more like something that would be attributed to a pump and dump scheme. Is it illegal? Only the investigators would be able to know that. But here's the rub. If Trump and Musk coordinated this stunt to boost Tesla's value before they sold some shares, well, that's textbook manipulation. Now, orangutan likes to dance on the lines, and they probably went and cleared everything with a lawyer or two, or 33, before they came out. They probably had their own little script written to make sure they don't cross the line. So we'll see. But you remember back in 2018, Musk tweeted funding secured, and it all turned out to be falsehood. And it cost him $40 million in fines. And Trump's own history with stocks, like the DWAC that drew scrutiny. But you got to have an investigation to find the collusion. You got to have an investigation to find the agreement, the conspiracy, the market manipulation. You would need something like, let's take a look at those text messages. You would need something like, what you mean that conversation was recorded? What'd they talk about? Insider trading? The SEC might shrug without such evidence. But you know what the kicker is? Tesla's board members sold $7 billion in stock weeks before this PR stunt took place. Now, was that a coincidence? Investigators better be asking who cashed out after the surge. Investigators need to be asking who cashed out after the surge. So whether you see this as a genius business move or a blatant market manipulation, one thing is clear. Powerful men have been using handshakes, back alley deals, and headlines to move money for generations. Corporate money laundering. The question is, who really got played? Well, in this scenario, neither of them got played. At least not yet. If there isn't going to be an investigation, neither of them is going to come off with any problems. Who really got played? The American people, ladies and gentlemen. That's who got played. Because while they're making moves, chess moves, no doubt, but while they're making moves to earn and keep billions, they're still terminating middle class Americans, white ones and black ones, white women and black women, brown ones and red ones and yellow ones too. So who's getting played? We are. Which reminds me, I got another West African proverb for you that kind of relates to this whole rigmarole here. A man who swallows a whole coconut must trust his anus. A man who swallows a whole coconut must trust his anus. Hey, don't look at me. That's the proverb. Coming to you live from Ghana. Meaning, though, the meaning is very sober. If you take big risks, you better be ready for the consequences. What goes in, got to come out. What goes in, got to come out. So, now I say all that to say, let me bring this whole thing into focus. Let me bring this into focus. So you got a backroom deal with Zelenskyy. You got a backroom deal with Musky. What does this sound like? How is this familiar? Sounds like the same backroom deals the envelopian people have been doing since the days of Reconstruction. Because the end of Reconstruction was the blueprint for today's political schemes. What you talk about, Willis? The compromise of 1877, after the contested 1876 presidential election, contested being the key word. Y'all remember, Trump contested all those elections that he ran in. A shady backroom deal was struck. Republican Rutherford B. Hayes would become president, but in return, he agreed to pull federal troops out of the South. Why is that important? It was the federal troops that was ensuring the beginnings of 40 Acres and a Mule. It was the federal troops that were ensuring in the South the beginnings of Black people being treated fairly, of getting their just desserts, of making moves in a progressive manner. And that Reconstruction era is still, to date, the most successful era for Black advancement. And it was so successful, much like today with DEI, even though clearly DEI is not just for and not just about Black people, but there is a significant number of Black people who were making moves, who were getting advancements because of DEI. Yes, white women got more, but white women always get more. But Black people were benefiting from DEI, just not as much as white women. Just like Black people were benefiting from Reconstruction. And the one thing that they saw, they never want that to happen again. They do not want Black people to advance in such leaps and bounds that we far surpass them. And that's what happened during Reconstruction. They had all of the bells and whistles, but we were the ones making the advancements. So they went into a back room and made a deal because there was a problem with the election. The numbers weren't numbering. And so the election was contested. And so the backroom deal was, okay, we'll give you the presidency if you take them people out there that's stopping us from doing things to them black folk. So the South returned to the white supremacist rules that they were fighting the war for. Black progress was violently rolled back. And this, ladies and gentlemen, was the birth of Jim Crow. So you got to be mindful of these backroom deals. This is also why I say all of those reporters, particularly the black ones, that weren't calling out the backroom deal possibilities during the Zelenskyy shouting match and aren't calling forth the backroom deal possibilities over the Trump Tesla purchase. Y'all ain't doing y'all job. Y'all not doing your job. The key lesson here, the powerful always find a way to strike deals. And these deals always, somehow or another, protect the powerful interests and sell out the middle class, the working class, the black population, the brown population, the migrants, the immigrants. The only people that benefit from these backroom deals are millionaires and billionaires. And at this point, the billionaires are trying to decide if they're going to let the millionaires play with them. So again, this, like I said, the mirroring, the parallelism. So just like the Reconstruction era, black politicians and voters were discarded when it no longer benefited the ruling class, just like with the DEI programs. The working class investors get played when billionaires and politicians manipulate markets and sign backroom deals. So those Tesla stockholders, they're the modern working class, the stockholders, not the CEO, the stockholders. Now, some of them, yeah, they got money, but they still in the middle class. Some of them, a lot of them are still in the middle class. Most everyday investors can't compete with the billionaires who can move markets with a tweet and move markets with a staged event. Trump's deal with Musk isn't about business. None of Trump's deals are about business. They may be about making money, but they're not about business, at least not good business. Not with all the failed businesses he got under his belt. Trump's deal is more about control. Just like Southern Democrats back then wanted to control the economy, they wanted to control the labor, us. Today's corporate elites use market tricks to keep everyday people from gaining wealth. It's one of the reasons they got mad at those, what was it? The Reddit squad that propped up whatever that Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, but that digital coin. That's another issue. So let's get real. From 1877 to 2024, black communities keep getting sacrificed on the altar of capitalism. Reconstruction's betrayal birthed Jim Crow. And today, black voters propping up a Democratic Party that takes their loyalty for granted while letting billionaires like Musk and Trump rig the game. Yeah, this is a stab at the Democratic Party. I usually try not to stab at the Democratic Party. I usually save all my ire for the Republicans, but the Democrats don't do enough. If history teaches us anything, it's this: black people need their own party. I've said this before. I've said this several times. Black people need their own party. What black people really need, more than a political party, black people need their own government. Yeah, I know that you can't have a government without your own land. Well, black people need their own land and their own territory. Shout out to those of you who know about the Republic of New Africa. Shout out to those of you who know about the Republic of New Africa, because that's what they were trying to fight for. Imagine a block that can't be sidelined. Block as in voting block. Imagine not your street, a voting block or a group that can't be sidelined in backroom negotiations. If you got your own government, it's a whole new ball game. A block that forces elites to negotiate instead of dictate. Until then, until we get our own something, whether we get our own political party or we get our own government, and I would say actually we need both. Maybe you crawl before you walk, so you first get the black political party and you get it bolstered up so that it is strong, never forgetting that the ultimate goal is your own government. But until then, we'll keep being the goat, smiling at the hyena, unaware that the deal was sealed before we walked in. Now, I'm not just blowing smoke here. You don't believe me, or you think I'm cuckoo, you think this is just me talking. I'm gonna show you something. You can go check out. It's another YouTube page, very good. The Transatlantic Productions podcast on YouTube. They got a discussion going on about the upcoming, what's today, the 12th? I think it's in 3 days. The upcoming plebiscite. The upcoming plebiscite for international reparations. What's a plebiscite? I'm gonna tell you. But they have quite a few discussions on the upcoming plebiscite for international reparations when the African Union meets later this month. I do believe it's on the 15th. I advise you all to fill out the plebiscite. Make your voices known. I've done it myself. Now I'm gonna share my screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's see. Let me pull it up. There we go. Now, let me share my screen. So you can see this. So you see what's on the screen. The new African Diplomatic and Civil Service Corps Plebiscite Exploratory Committee. Initial plebiscite survey. Now it says, please complete this and return to New African Diplomatic Corps at gmail.com. I certainly hope if you're watching this program, if you think it's important, please do so. But before I get there, let me see if I can give a full breakdown. I had a page pulled up for the definition of a plebiscite, just so you can see. Okay, so let me show this. Here we go. What is a plebiscite? A plebiscite is the direct vote of all the members of an electorate a direct vote of all the members of an electorate on an important public question, such as a change in the Constitution. That's just one, but there's plenty of other things that are more important than a change in the Constitution, such as whether or not Black Americans deserve reparations. A direct vote. A direct vote. So that means you should go to the site, and it's in my description, so you can check it out. You can get to the link there. Balanta.org. BALANTA. Balanta.org. And it's really an interesting survey. I'll run through some of the questions. Are you a U.S. citizen? In what city do you live? What is that's what. If you could only select one of the following, which term do you prefer to use to refer to yourself? Now, that's an interesting question, and you can look at some of the options. Do you consider yourself an Afro descendant, Black, a descendant of Africans enslaved in the U.S. New African, that's the one I like. Aboriginal, African American, mixed, foundational Black American, indigenous, or just plain old African. I like that one too. But again, this whole thing, from which modern day country in Africa did your maternal ancestor survive the Middle Passage, if you know, or your paternal ancestor? Do you believe that Black people in America are fully integrated into American society? Well, I guess some people will say yes. I don't, but you get your options there. Do you believe that Black people in America should have a government of their own, like all other free peoples? That's the one that got me rolling with this conversation tonight. But like I said, so you can go to this website, you can fill out this form. Do you believe if you can only choose two forms of reparations, which of the following would you choose? Individual cash payouts. Let's see if I can make it bigger. It should be a little bit clearer on the screen. That's not bigger either. That's a little bit bigger. Okay. Still not as big as I wanted. I thought it would be big enough to really, really see. Here we go. So if you can only choose two forms of reparations, which of the following would you choose? Individual cash payout, individual tax amnesty, free individual college tuition, free individual medical insurance and health care, individual housing subsidy, land grant, free individual repatriation program with citizenship to an African country, negotiated treaty establishing independent national territory and a recognized government for descendants of Africans enslaved in the United States, or reparations paid to a newly established independent national government of descendants of Africans enslaved in the United States. Now, again, the questions go on, but these are some very interesting topics, questions that should be answered. And like I said, they're having a meeting, I believe it was with the African Union on the 15th, I believe. So again, I advise you all to fill out the plebiscite and make your voices known. Calling on Africans in the diaspora. The AU ECOSOC Secretariat is going to be discussing the diaspora framework endorsed at the 38th African Union Summit. Elected representatives of the African diaspora, 6th region, that's us. The 6th region is all Black people in the Western Hemisphere. African Americans, African Canadians, Africans of all the Caribbean nations, and Africans in South America and Central America. So we are the 6th region of the African continent, the diaspora. So this diaspora legal framework developed by ECOSOC defines how diaspora organizations can participate and be represented within the African Union. It sets eligibility criteria and procedures for engagement in decision making, ensuring the African diaspora groups can actively contribute to AU policies and initiatives. Actively contribute. So those of us who might be interested in returning to the continent, but you got an issue with paying for a visa. Well, you join this organization, fill out this plebiscite, and you can make your voice heard, because there is a conversation to be had, not by just us as Africans in the diaspora, but even continental Africans are revving up the campaign for their governments to get rid of the visa. And that would be one more stumbling block that we can help knock down, and therefore, make our travels to the continent even easier. So again, Saturday, March 15th, 10 a.m. New York time, 3 p.m. Universal time, or UTC time. Please take a look at that. And before we get out of here, I'm going to drop off another West African proverb. You can see it on the screen, but I'm going to stop sharing. Come back to the wide. So as I said, the rain does not recognize one's enemies. The rain does not recognize one's enemies. It falls on everyone. Meaning, what do I mean by that? Systemic deals drench everyone. This is very important, not just for us as Black people. This is very important for all those envelopians that didn't think they were going to feel the fire from orangutan and his cronies. the oligarch regime. Systemic deals drench everyone. So when they say we're going to reduce the size of government, and all these envelopians thought, yeah, they're going to finally get rid of all these black people around here. Nah, they're getting rid of you too. You're in the same boat. You may not like it. You may not want to admit it, but fool, we in the same boat. So when they cut us, you getting cut too, because you ain't got $1 billion in your bank account. Marginalized communities drown first. This may be true, but we ain't the only ones drowning in the water. And quite frankly, because we have more experience with water drowning than you do, we know how to float. We know how to swim without a paddle. Metaphorically speaking, of course. Y'all the ones that's going to be hurting. Whether you're a Tesla stockholder, whether you are a Veterans Administration employee, but you see yourself as different, whether you work for the Department of Justice or the Bureau of Indian Affairs or what have you, but you see yourself as different, you ain't in the same boat. F-A, F-O, you in it now. You in it now. But all along, while all of the rain is drenching all of us, the billionaires got their own umbrellas. They stay dry. The rain does not recognize the enemy. It falls on everyone. So with that being said, that's my proper perspective. I'm kind of surprised I lasted this long. I didn't think it was going to take this long. I thought it was going to be about 20 minutes up on here. But hey, it is what it is. Thank you. I appreciate you tuning in. I'm gonna get up out of here. I thank everybody for tuning in. Shout out to Decoding History Podcast. And let's see, I'm gonna get on up out of here by sharing my screen and playing my rollout. Y'all know what it is. Maximize and turn up the mic.
Break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. So much controversy and a lot of deception. You don't know who's coming through with the light and reflection, and whose mouth is mumbling trick knowledge deceptive. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective. Shabazz break it down with the proper perspective.